Today, I think we'll use Blender to try to help out making some avatar arm sleeves for Second Life. Normally, it's pretty easy to do a tattoo on the avatar, except when you have to match up those nasty UV map seams. Arms are especially problematic for that, and I think we can probably use Blender to help out getting that done. First thing, of course, what we want to do is bring in an avatar so we have something to work for. Let's go see if we can do that really quickly here by doing an import. And here's our standard Second Life male avatar. He's kind of blonde, though. He's got no skin, and it's kind of hard to see what the tattoos are going to look like if we don't have any way to take a look at the skin on top of it at the same time. So let's take a moment and go through the mesh that we have, which is basically in three parts, three main parts at least. We have a head, we have a torso, and we have legs. There's also a couple of eyeballs hanging in there. Let's go ahead and get some skin textures put on this so we can have an idea what it might look like. I'm going to go ahead and open up the scene creation over here and click on the first one we have for mesh, which shows eyeball left mesh. And we're going to come down here and we're going to find the material that's on there already. Almost all of them have material 1 to start with. We're going to delete that one and we're going to create a brand new texture. And so I know what I'm doing. I usually just name them something that matches what they actually are. Let's call this one avatar material for eye material. And now then, to actually get an eye material on there, we would come down here to the base color, click on the dot and select that we want an image texture to add to it. And we'll go over here to open and we're going to go see if we can find one. I've already got some set up, so we should be able to do that fairly quickly. And we're looking for an eye, so that one looks pretty good. We'll say open it. Now to see what's going on, let's go to material preview up here so we can take a look. It's kind of hard to tell, but yes, there is an eyeball in there. And we have another eye we need to do the same way, and that one's pretty easy too. So we'll go down and click on this one, delete material 1, and come over here and just drop down and pick eye material since it's already in place, and now both eyes are taken care of. Moving further down, let's go to the head and take care of the mesh that we have on the head. Same procedure. Remove the existing material, add a new material. This one we would call head material, amazingly enough. Keeping things simple, of course. And now the same routine. Pick the image. Go ahead and open one for it. And we now have our bald-headed male character going on. Let's go ahead and down the rest of the body, fix this right up here. And one more to go for the torso, which is actually the important part because that's what we're going to be dealing with today is the upper mesh. So let's get this one set up the same way. And now we have something we can take a look at and work off of, but we don't want to draw tattoos on skin layers. We want them separately so we can separate those out. So let's go into our shading viewers now and go ahead and see if we can't manipulate this around a little bit and put the actual layers on that we can put our tattoos on. We don't really need anything on the eyes, so let's start back with the head again. Zoom here so we can see what we're doing. And come into our node editor. I've got Node Wrangler turned on, so I'm just going to do my Control T to add my mappings for textures and EV maps. We're going to highlight these and Shift D to duplicate them. Drop them below, clean up the mess a little bit so they're not on top of one another. And let's move these over so we can put in a color map since we need to match two of them together. Shift A will bring that up. We're going to go ahead and put the alpha on the factor here so we'll be able to take care of that later on too. And we pretty much have the head set now so we could throw a tattoo layer on. Since we're here right now, we got to do one more thing. We have two different boxes with the same texture on here. So let's go down here on this one though and take care of it by putting in a different texture and say new. And since this is going to be a head tattoo texture, let's name it that. And we don't want our tattoo to be black. We want it to be white with full transparency turned on. And let's get care of that issue now too. We've got the white set. Now we need to adjust the alpha, drop it down, and hit new image. And now we have a blank one ready to go. We can actually bake to that one if we wanted to. Just to keep life a little simpler though, I usually come over here and add another texture and bake it to this one just so it looks more common. Let's go ahead and throw that in there too and put a UV map on it for later because we'll probably want that too. And since this is a new texture we need to bake to, we need to create that texture. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's call this one a head bake texture. And it's already transparent, which is good. So we hit new and we've got that one ready. So we have the head pretty well lined up the way we want it. Let's jump on down to the rest of the body, take care of that. Same situation, we're on the lower body now. Click on the texture, Control T, duplicate them. Get these over a little bit, drop in our color map. Mix color. Same with the alpha textures. And let's go ahead and drop this texture out and put in the one that we want, which is a new one. And we will call this one lower tattoo. All set, ready to go. And since we might bake later, let's do the same thing over here. Create our tattoo bake section. Get that done too. Shift A to put in the UV map. And create a new texture so there's something to bake. And let's go back and select the upper body now and do the same thing. Fill off the texture and put in a new one. Something to bake to later on. And create us a texture to bake. Okay, at this time we've got something that we can use later on because it's just a generic, basically male avatar with skin and tattoo layers. So it'll be a good time to save this out so we can back up what we're doing. So let's come over here and just do a save as. Drop this in here and we'll put it in here as male skinned avatar. And now we'll take a brief moment and we'll rearrange and get ready to take care of what we're really doing today. And that's separating off some of the mesh so we can deal with the arms because we've got the body ready. But what we want to do now is just only the arms that we want to work with. So let's take care of that. Since all we really want to see right now is the upper body, let's go ahead and hide some of this to get it out of our way. We don't need the eyes. We don't need the head. We don't need the lower. We want just the upper body mesh that we're dealing with right now. And one of the ways that we can separate this out would be use the UV editing. So we can go over here and click on UV and bring it up so we can see what we're doing. And I like to go ahead and select it by face because that way it doesn't get some edges on there. And while we're doing this, I would suggest that we turn on wireframe so we can grab what's behind. And I also come over here into the left-hand panel and make it where these two windows sync up. And what we want to do is get just the arm part that we need down here, not necessarily the hand or the chest or the back. And a quick way to get it separated off with the right location, I come over here and locate the wrist, and that will give me a place that I can turn and hide. So I'm going to select the left wrist and say select. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit H and just hide it. I'm going to do the same thing for the right wrist. Select it and hide it. Now I can box select over here and hide that and come over here and box select this, except I don't want to make it into the arm. There we go. Hide that. And we can come over here quickly and hit the chest and hit L, and then we can hide the chest, and we can come over here and hit L and hide the back. And now we have just what we're looking for. We have this section of the arm that I'm going to be trying to unwrap differently so we can do our tattoos. And the next thing we want to do is mark a few seams so we can unwrap this differently, but we want to make a copy first. So let's go ahead and take it while we have the wireframe mode turned on, highlight everything that we have on the screen, do a Shift D and move it to make sure it's there. Then we're going to hit a P to select it and separate it. And now we have another selection up here that should be listed as upper body mesh 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide that one for temporarily and stay back to upper mesh body on the arms. And we're going to do the same thing twice. There's a reason for that. I'll show you that in just a minute. So again, we're highlighting everything. We're hitting the Shift D, moving it to make sure it's there. We're going to do the letter P and separate it by heading the letter S for selected. Now we should have two different listings for upper body mesh 1 and upper body mesh 2. Those are the ones that we're going to be working on, and to keep it where it's a little bit simpler, let's come up over to the scene collection and just add a new collection. And down here under collection 2, let's take upper mesh body 1 and upper mesh body 2 and drag them down here and put them into collection 2. Now we can come over here to collection 1 and just hide it because we don't need anything in there. That way we don't mess up anything we need. We have just the two items that we're working with right now. We have a mesh 1 and a mesh 2. The reason we're doing that is we're going to take the mappings on these a little bit differently. So we're going to keep one of them standard and one of them we're going to remap. So let's go click on the one that's 001 and that one there. Let's go over down here to the UV mapping and see what we have set up for it. And that should just be the regular one, but let's change the name of it to something we can make sure we're doing the right thing. So let's just call that one both arms standard, for instance. And so now we have that one labeled there. And let's come up here and take this mesh and make it named differently too, so we know what we're doing. And call that one both standard. And now then, let's hide that one. Well, it's already hidden at the moment. So let's go there and try that again, make sure we got it right. Both arms standard, and that one says, I think I've screwed up. Let's check this one here and see what we have down here. All right, I've got one of the mesh labeled now as both arms standard. And let's come down here and name this one a little bit differently so we know what we're doing. This will be both arms remapped because this is the one we're going to have the remapping on. Careful because when you change a name, it'll change the order of them sometime. So it'll flip it around on you. All right, we've got the both arm remapped. That one there, we want to come back in and get rid of the UV map and start it fresh. So we're going to come over here, make sure we're in the right mesh. Select it all again. So now we have both arm remapped, and this one needs to be down here. We're going to delete the mapping that's on there already, and we're going to add a new one. And let's name this one like both arms remap. Now come back to click this one. And we're showing that one's okay. Let's turn off this one so we show it right. All right, so there's our standard map, and here's one that has no mapping on it. So what I want to do now is come back over here on the one that's going to be remapped, turn off the other one. So this is the only one we've got. We're going to highlight it at the moment. And it shows no map on there. So let's go ahead and get this ready to map. We need to mark a few seams first, of course, so we can work on it. We can turn off the X-ray mode now and go in and make it this way a little bit easier to do. We're going to be matching on themes. We're going to mark themes. So let's pick that and do a loop select here. And we'll do the same thing over here. And let's mark those while we've got the screen open, seeing what we're doing. And let's zoom out a little bit and come over here and mark this seam on the end. And the one over here too by holding the shift key down. Now we can mark those two. Now we need to mark the bottom of the arms. And the easiest way to get there is go to Z and come up to the bottom side. And now we can zoom in. And we're going to take the seam that's running down the center and mark that seam. We'll start with the top one up here, just go with. Zoom in a little bit. And just hold the shift key down and click through the edge and get ready to mark it. You do a mistake like that one, just hit it again and get rid of it. And mark seam. Move the screen up a little bit. Do the same thing on this one. Mark theme. Now then, the trick here, we want to do one arm at a time because that's the way Second Life did theirs originally. So we're going to come over here and we're going to select just one arm in X-ray mode. So we get it all and we have that one ready. Now let's go back in and do a UV unmap on it, or unwrap rather. And now we have the first one and it's already over where it needs to be. Let's come over here and select the second one and do the same thing, UV unwrap. And we've got that one ready. Now what we have to do is take these two maps and put them on top of one another because that's how Second Life does their original, so we want to keep it the same. Since we just did the second one, let's come over here and click on it and do a right mouse click and say mirror to the X. Well, let's get it all. Get all. And now let's go back, and I got one screwed up. Now then, L for everything, right mouse click mirror, and now we have the two of the meshes right on top of one another. So let's go ahead and align them a little bit better so it'll be easier to use later on. Box selected all, and we're going to go in and rotate it a little bit so it's more straight with what we need. Something about right about there. And I have a nice little tool that we can center all that. So let's center the UV. And now it's a little bit too big because it's going over the edge. So let's scale it down a little bit so we have a little bit of margin. And now with this one highlighted and everything ready, we need to save that out so we have our template that we need later on to create it on our TD software program. So let's go down here and export UV map layout, and we'll go back in the same zone that we were doing everything before. Let's make it under male skin. It's already done here, but we're going to do it again just so we have it. Export, and now we have our UV map that we need to play with later on. So we have this one is both arm remap, labeled both arm remap, and we have the one that's down below as standard. So we have what we need now that we can start mapping out the two different maps and get a bake done so we can put it the way we want. Okay, now for the baking to work properly, the one that is a remap needs to be inside the one that's standard so when we bake it, it'll work correctly, which means we need to take the one that we did as a remap on it and make it just a little bit smaller than the one that we have already out there. And since we're already highlighted on it, let's go ahead and bring that one over and move it this way and so we can see what we're doing. And what we want to do now, before we make any adjustments to the size, if we were to rotate this, we're going to find out that the point of origin is somewhere down here because it was matched up with whatever the rest of the body is. So we need to fix that before we go anything further. So let's go back into object mode. And with object mode going on it right now, select everything, which it already is. And we're going to come up over here to object, and we're going to say set origin to the center of the mass by volume. And now we have our center of mass right here in the center that we need it. So when we do the shrinking, it's going to shrink just the arm and not bring it down and mess it all up. Because if we don't get that right, all right, we have our point of origin set now for the remapped arms. Let's go ahead and do the exact same thing for the standard arm so they are both together. Let's go ahead and select both arms standard. Come over here and recollect over here. And we want to go ahead and turn off filament so we can see what we're doing. Object, set origin to mass volume. All right, we've got them both selected now. Let's go ahead and turn back on the both arm remapped and make sure we're using that one. And with the both arm remap selected, and here we want to change the Y and the Z and keep the X alone. So it's 0.9, 0.9, and that should make our arm that's inside smaller than the other one. And we can confirm that by turning them both on. And if we look very closely, we have the mesh one inside the other with nothing sticking through anywhere. So that's exactly what we want. Well, we've got our two mesh separated now. What we need to do now is put some materials on them so they'll be able to go ahead and do our baking that we're looking for. So under the one that's marked as remap, let's go ahead and do that one. Come down and get the materials for it. It's already set for upper material, but we don't really want to see that because it's going to be the wrong upper material. It's going to look weird when we redo the rebake on it. So let's go ahead and get that set up for us and make sure we're doing the right thing here. Look at it. You can tell it's all the wrong stuff. Got, got test all over the arm, all kinds of weird stuff. So that's not what we wanted. So let's get rid of that one for both arm remap to get rid of that material and start off with a fresh one here. And we're going to call this one something new. And we'll call it both arm remap. This is probably going to be a material that's probably the tattoo. We'll just call it material for the time being. And we're going to go to the base color again like we've done before. We're going to pick an image texture for it. And we're going to click a new one. And we're going to suggest that this one be called both arm remap texture. And again, we want it to be transparent. We want alpha turned on. So let's say new image. And we've got that one turned on and ready to go. Let's go into shader mode so we can see what we're doing with it. And we've got it set up the basic, but we need to do a couple little things to make it work. It needs to have alpha turned on. Let's do that. Now it's kind of invisible. And it wouldn't hurt to go ahead and do our Control T and put on the mapping for textures and everything we have there. And let's come back over to this one then and click for the other one and see what we have for standard on that one. And that one looks okay. Both arms standard. We have upper skin. We have upper tattoo. Looks pretty good on that one because it's all set up from before. So what we have here is this one's got a basic one, which is basically a transparent that's going to be setting there. This could be the one that we're going to end up baking to. This is what we're going to put our image on that we want to start with, and we'll bake it to the other one. So let's go ahead and just find a texture that might be usable by using a 2D program that would use that UV map. Let's go grab a texture we might already have ready for that. And let's click there and put that on there. Let's go ahead and say textures, male skin, see if I've got one ready for us. You want to use one of these remapped facilities. And I think I've got that saved somewhere else. Let's grab it over here. This one looks pretty good where we've taken a single rose and doubled it up so it's a little bit bigger. And so now the double rose is on there. We can't really see it because the other skin's out there, but if we turn off the other one, there would be what the tattoo is going to look like once we bake it. You can turn off the overlays if you want to make it look a little different, but that's kind of the look we're going for is right there. Okay, we got to get this texture done on the other one, so we got to do a bake to get that done. So let's go back to the baking again and go back to the arm standard, which we're going to do. To bake this, the way I've got it set up right now, we have to break a few things and change how it's set up because we don't want to bake it on the skin texture. We want to bake it only on this texture that's down here. So let's go ahead and take the output of the second material and drop it to base color. And let's take the alpha from here and drop it over here for alpha. And now we have it showing the way we want it. We have a transparent area that was skin with the texture that we want to bake to underneath it. So we're pretty much ready to go ahead and start baking this off. We have a material ready for upper bake. We have everything going. Let's go ahead back here and click on the remap version. Start with that one. Hold down the control key and hit the other one. And now let's go over to our bake area and see what we can do to see if we can make this work or not. Make sure we're on cycles, GPU compute, if that's what you've got. Come down to the word bake. We want to bake only a diffuse because that's all we're really working with right now, because that's all the tattoo layers allow us to play with. There's no lighting in world, so we can turn off the indirect and the direct lighting since that won't make any difference. One thing we do want to check though is selected to active, because that's what we're doing. We're going to come over here and select the upper bake. And if I did this right, we should be able to click on the word bake and see what happens. Down at the bottom it said texture baking, and if we come over here and look at the little window, there's our texture that we need. So we've got it ready to go. It looks pretty good so far. Let's go ahead and see what it might look on the entire body. So let's go back over here now to collections, turn back on collection A, for instance. And since we hit everything, we're going to turn it back on this way too. Turn back on eyeballs and the head mesh and the lower mesh. And then we have all the way everything down here. Now then we have to come over and take care of a few more things. Let's go ahead and get this back because we can't see the skin because we shut it off a while ago. So while we have the arm standard turned on, let's go back and recollect the way it's supposed to be by clicking alpha here, dropping it to factor, take the base color, drop it over here, and then we need to put our results back to the mix. So put that back over here and see what we have. And now we have it set up to where it showed. Now the problem we have right now is our bake material is sitting over here and it needs to be down here so we can see it. So we can select over here and say upper bake, for instance, and now we have it showing where the skin texture, the bake texture are mixed together, and we have it on our body and we can see the results of our tattoo. Now we probably need to save a few things because we have textures out there that have not been saved, so we probably better do that. Let's do a save all. The upper tattoo was the one we really wanted saved, and upper bake is the one that we need too. Let's make sure we got it right by saying upper bake. And there it is. Now let's come over here and make sure it says that one is actually saved. And we'll come under to texture, male skin. Upper bake material is already out there. We'll just add a 1 to it and save it. And now we've got our tattoo done for our arm, saved so we can take it into Second Life and actually use it.